praises of playing with Anthony Davis. Quote, "It's everything I expected and more, guys." He said, obviously, that's why I wanted him here. When you get a generational talent like that and you get an opportunity to go get him, you just try to do whatever you can. Brian, what do you make of not just how they look on the court, but the off-the-court relationship between these guys?
I've never seen LeBron so invested in a teammate's happiness and success as I have with this season.
You don't think he was as invested in Dwayne Wade being successful?
No, absolutely not. He has totally changed his approach to the game to make sure Anthony Davis is happy. And I think part of it is he wants the Lakers to be successful. I think part of it is it's not a guarantee that he's re-signing. I know that it was almost assumed, but I think...
Just to clarify, you're talking Anthony Davis re-signing.
Yes, and with Chris Bosh and with Kevin Love, it was a rough go their first years. Now, Love had an opportunity to not re-sign, but he did.
Yeah, remember the famous pool meeting between Kevin Love and LeBron?
LeBron has been very, very, very focused on making AD comfortable and happy. Having said all that, their chemistry in March doesn't matter as much as their chemistry in May. They're going to need Anthony Davis to be great in May for them to get where they want to go.
Yeah, but let's think about overall where the Lakers were last March in terms of where they are now. He had to make sure that the AD situation was worked out well, because we're finally seeing, if you're a Lakers fan, you're pumped up. Planet LeBron and Laker Nation are in step in a way that they have not been and were not up until this point. It's the best case scenario. I mean, when we all thought that this was going to work, this is what we were looking at. And it's actually finally happened. And I think that you're right. AD re-signing, considering what he walked into with the mess that was that franchise, there was no guarantee. LeBron's making sure that does not go wrong. And it's showing on the court as well as anywhere else, which is what's important.
I think it's fascinating how we watch LeBron tweak all the parts of his game that people have criticized, right? So early on, his shooting isn't good. We saw that go to the disaster point during a certain NBA Finals against Dallas. Look, we had earlier in the segment, we're talking about him shooting from the logo, right? One of the big criticisms about him was how he treated or talked to teammates, right? The text messages, the fit in, the fit out, the this, that, and the other. You mentioned Kevin Love and Chris Bosh, right? And then the narrative was people didn't want to play with LeBron. You had Kyrie Irving asking for a trade. Kawhi Leonard supposedly didn't want to play with LeBron. Kevin Durant supposedly didn't want to go play for LeBron. Paul George didn't sign with the Lakers. Well, he went out, recruited Anthony Davis. Make no mistake about that, right? The Lakers make that trade. He makes Anthony Davis comfortable in every way possible. And what he has done, not just for AD, but for the rest of that locker room this year, as we have talked about, has been so pointed. So you can say, hey, he's just doing it because he wants them to resign, which I know wasn't your point, but there's people who've been criticizing for that. But the bottom line is he has continued to evolve in a way where you had a guy who's one of the most dominant players ever, who has taken the parts of his game, small parts that people found issue with, and looked and worked on ways to fix it. And he's done that here with Anthony Davis. I'm impressed.
And it's worked.
Coming up, the Clippers put the clamps on OKC last night. Clumps and clamps in the show. Holding them under 100 points. Do you buy their ability to flip the switch on defense? We will discuss that next on The Jump. Look at this. Taking a charge on Zion is not for the faint of heart. How much would we have to pay you to take this charge, to be Josh in this situation?
110 day. I'll do it for 110 day.
Boy, I'm going to negotiate with you.
I do it. I mean, it's not like I've got to take a punch to the face.
I know this has been a miserable season for the Wolves, but Josh Okogie is a bright spot for them, and he's a really good young defender.
Well, he almost became a flat human, a little flat Stanley going on there.
It was pretty brave.
That was a tough charge to take, too. He took a ball to the grill. That was not easy.
Right? It's a lot coming at you.
That's a very strong man. That is all man. So
Also, what if you get the call? I'd be worried.
It's probably not worth the call.
Low lights. Brian, should we get used to hearing the phrase Lonzo to Zion moving forward over and over?
The Pelicans certainly hope so.
Look at that. Look
at him leading the break, though.
I've been trying to coin the phrase Iron Lion Zion, but it's not really working between the three of them.
What's with this piano music? Am I supposed to be emotional about this?
It's like the two of them are paired now. They're going to go off into the sunset.
It's like that Instagram filter where
maybe.
It's lovely. It's wonderful. I'm so relaxed, and it's like terms of endearment.
It's like swans.
You know terms of endearment? You don't know who Al Haig is?
No, I still don't.
History
People
lesson.
have texted me during the break, and I still don't know.
Really? That's amazing. Make tributes. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sporting a hoodie with the iconic photo of Iverson stepping over T. Lue from the 2001 Finals. Is this a bigger sign of respect for AI or disrespect for NBA champ player coach Ty Lue?
You can't participate.
I'm disqualified from this conversation.
Now this music is beef music.
By the way, Allen Iverson has said multiple times how much he digs Ty Lue. They're friends, and he feels bad. This has become so
Ugly sweatshirt, though. That's the problem. It's not just the moment.
By the way,
this
is not kind of. Shea doesn't have beef like this. Shea doesn't run his mouth. So this is kind of surprising, but he knew who was on the Clippers coaching staff. He knew exactly what he was doing.
This is a sneak diss, is what this is. That's what that would qualify.
Our greatest living American doing his thing. Miss mid-range. LeBron pulling up from the logo near half court again. Is logo LeBron now a thing, guys?
He did this in the All-Star game when he tried to end it.
Yes.
I mean, is it a thing in the context of what?
Well, logo Lillard became a thing.
He did it to end a run against the Pelicans. Like, I mean, are we supposed to believe that he's going to pull up and do this and then blow by somebody and bang on them in the playoffs? Perhaps, but I'm not expecting to see this that often.
I'm just going to say that I think NBA teams, regardless of this awesome highlight package here, NBA teams are happy that he would want to take this shot.
I would like to package up this video clip and show it to everyone in 2011 and see their faces.
It's a good one.
It's amazing that he can actually do this at this point.
And there we go. All right, Meg Hart, Marcus Smart climbing the ladder to block Nets big man Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen usually doing the blocking, but woo, look at this.
Oh, but what if he had gotten dunked on, Rachel? We'd be mocking him.
Showing it.
We'd be mocking him today. He's supposed to make a business decision and not get dunked on. Oh my gosh! How terrible is it to challenge a guy at the rim?
This ranks very high because the difficulty there is the between the arms dunk. That's the hard part. Is that it's one thing to get a guy and kind of knock him off pace. It's another thing to go between the wickets and get that ball off the rim. That's amazing.
Brian, your argument holds no water. Either we should never show it in either direction, or we should show it in both directions, which is what we're doing now.
I hate it when Rachel says my argument holds no water.
Correct. The Celtics, though, did have an epic collapse last night versus the Nets, just like Brian's epic collapse during Maker Minute. No, I'm kidding. We will dig into that in a moment. First, let's check out this play at the end of regulation, because you got to see it to understand what Marcus Smart was so upset about. He was called for the foul on Karis LeVert with 0.2 seconds left. LeVert sends the game to overtime at the foul line. Smart went on to foul out in overtime. He had some aggressive language for the officials when the game was over. Brian, do you expect to see any punishment coming Smart's way? In all seriousness, I do know that this is something you're pretty passionate about.
All right, first off, that was a foul on LeVert at the end of the game. And that was a costly foul because it ended up costing them the game. Secondly, yes, they should be fining him. The fine should already be out. And one of the things that has happened over the last couple of years is players are not getting fined in certain circumstances. Damian Lillard was wronged on a couple of calls. He went crazy on the court. They didn't fine him. Mark Cuban goes on a 9-tweet-long rant last week, and the NBA says, we'll have to wait until we investigate their claims on this game before we decide. This is not how you back up your officials. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, this has not been a banner year for officiating in the NBA. It has not been good. Some of the younger officials that they brought in have not been as strong as they wanted to be. But the league is not backing up its officials on a regular basis. They are letting people get away with things. And this is what happens. There's an escalation. So now Marcus Smart feels like he can do this because he's not worried about any consequences. And the more and more you do that, the more and more you open it. I mean, at the end of last season, we had Sean Marks from the Brooklyn Nets barging into the locker room. Yeah. We had players, the officials' locker room. We had players throwing balls at officials. You have to defend and have your officials' backs. I don't think the league has done a very good job of it over the last 2 years, and we're going to continue to see escalations, and I expect this to be a difficult playoffs for officiating because it's not been a good year. And if you set the tone that you are not going to have your officials' backs, as I think the NBA has headed down that path this year, you're going to see more of this. And he was absolutely out of line. You do not handle it in that regard. There are other channels which you can handle it with, and that was absolutely unacceptable, and he should be dealt with accordingly.
Well, I said yesterday that I don't think that the notion of touching an official should be completely off limits at all time. But the reason I said that is because I believe that the purpose of getting close to an official is to have an audience. Marcus had an audience here and then proceeded to blow up, which was the strangest part about it. The escalation within the moment was, I think, where the decision-making went wrong. You're sticking your fingers in people's faces. That gets to a point where I think it's hard to defend overall. See, there, the discussion is being had. Right. It seems to be that there is something going on from a communicative standpoint, and then it gets to that. And that's where, for me, me, you've got to make a decision as a league and say we can't have that, because if you're already speaking to somebody in a calm manner and things get to the point where you're then gesticulating wildly all over the place, I don't love the internal escalation. Never mind how all the things that Brian mentioned have led up to this point.
I mean, look, it's hard. It's an emotional situation, so I think we always have to keep that in mind. But I do understand the escalation issue, and obviously officials have been troubled by all of this. To get back to the Celtics loss, Boston led by 17.